Prologue. 10-year-old Bobby left the hygienist's office after having his teeth cleaned. He ran out into the waiting room where his mother was. His mother gave him his toy truck. He didn't like leaving the truck with his mother as he went in to get his teeth cleaned, but now that it was over he could have it again. As his mother paid the receptionist and made another appointment for her son 6 months down the line, Bobby got on the floor on his hands and knees and pushed the truck here and there. "Bobby, you get up off the floor," Mrs. Buchanan admonished. "People are trying to walk." Bobby didn't listen to his mother. His mother thought it would be best to just finish her business and get out of there instead of reprimanding her son in a louder and more public manner. "Shelby Riley," said the dental assistant from the door that lead to the dental examining room. A young lady of about 15 years old got up out of her seat. Shelby was wearing a tie-dye biker shorts set which consisted obviously of biker shorts which were very tight and descended just past her mid-thigh, and a matching t-shirt which had a round neck and fit loosely to the tops of her thighs. Her bra was slightly more than a training bra. She had the perfect dancer's body. Shelby had to avoid Bobby, who was still crawling on the floor, as she walked towards the assistant. She made a dancer's hop to adroitly dodge the little boy. Shelby was a lithe girl who walked with a fluidity of movement that came with a dozen years of dance practice. Her makeup was lightly applied in natural tones. With just a hint of lip gloss on her lips, no blush but foundation gave her face a flawless appearance. This way, the assistant directed Shelby with a big reassuring smile on his face. Shelby thought the assistant looked slightly familiar. He was 2 or 3 years older than she was. He was dressed in the scrubs that assistants usually wear, which was throwing off her memory of where she saw this boy. On the scrubs, there was a decal with the name of the practice, and just above that was the name Morgan, presumably the name of the assistant. She wasn't sure, but he seemed to remind her of a boy at the high school Shelby attended. That boy was also 2 or 3 grades older than she had been when she was a freshman. He was more of a bully back then. Shelby didn't have much interaction with the boy. He was several years older and he wouldn't be bullying just some freshman girl. Shelby thought that this boy could be him. But she didn't think the bully's name was Morgan. He didn't appear as a bully anymore. He was now quite pleasant and had a professional air that belied his true age. Shelby didn't take too close a look at the assistant. If she had, she might have noticed that even though he was wearing white sneakers, he was wearing opaque stockings instead of socks, and if she would have looked closely at the shoulder or back of the boy, she would have seen the outline of his bra straps. As they were walking down the hall, they passed an elderly man in a wheelchair being pushed by another assistant. This assistant was a woman in her 40s who was wearing an identical outfit, scrubs and sneakers, as Morgan. The only difference is that apparently that assistant's name was Tracy. The old man in the wheelchair wasn't going to have his teeth cleaned. It was apparent that he didn't have any teeth left. What was strange about the old man was that it was spring, but the man was dressed like it was late fall. Shelby didn't know that elderly people often feel cold no matter what the temperature is. In the dental examination room, Shelby took a seat in the dental chair. The assistant clipped a dental bib around her neck and Shelby laid back to relax. She put her head on the headrest and waited for the dentist to arrive. Her mind went blank. Before she knew it, the procedure was over. "That wasn't too bad," the dental hygienist announced. "No, I didn't feel a thing." "Thank you, doctor." Shelby left the examination room and headed back to the reception area. The hygienist checked the computer terminal. She saw on the computer screen that Shelby Riley, age 15 records had been uploaded to the system. It was under the Robert Bobby Buchanan, age 10 record, who had the same procedure done to him and Shelby had to herself. There were scores of other records that had been uploaded to the system this week alone. Katie Naputi walked her son, Jonas, into the doctor's office. Katie was a middle-aged woman nearing 40. She had gained a few pounds since the divorce. The divorce was stressful, but her ex-husband was making her life a living hell ever since. Katie thought that James, her ex-husband, would mellow after getting married to Alexis, a woman almost half James' age and only 7 years older than their son. Alexis was 23 years old. Katie saw Alexis as all tits and ass but not much substance. But even after marrying her, James still found time to make Katie's life hell. Now he wanted full physical custody of their son, Jonas. "Why are we here?" "I don't want to be here," Jonas asked. "I'm your mother, you are only 16 and you have to do what I say," Katie stated forcefully. "Today, but not tomorrow." Jonas had lived with his mother his entire life. But starting tomorrow he might be living with his dad and his new stepmother. Jonas had grown more out of control recently, which disturbed Katie. But what disturbed her worse was that he was becoming more like his father every day. Tomorrow, Jonas, Katie and James would be in court. The court was going to decide on Jonas' placement. Jonas wanted to live with his father. He would tell the judge so, and in all likelihood he would go home with him. That's tomorrow. Today you are going to see the doctor. Why? Just to make sure you are in perfect health. If anything happens, I'll have proof it wasn't my fault. You know your dad loves to blame everyone but himself. Jonas entered the doctor's examining room. Jonas didn't take note of the doctor's name as the doctor led him into his inner office. "Take off your clothes and put this gown on," the doctor said. Then after a brief pause the doctor continued, "And your underwear too." Jonas was mad, but he didn't see any danger. He complied. He wanted to get this over with. When Jonas was dressed in an examination gown only, the doctor did as all doctors do. He used his stethoscope and listened to Jonas' heart. Then the doctor stepped behind Jonas and listened again to his heart, this time from the back. "Okay, now breathe deeply from your mouth," the doctor said. This time, instead of listening to Jonas' lower back as all doctors do to hear his lungs, the doctor took what looked like a small box and attached it to the back of Jonas' head. Jonas' mind went blank as his was temporarily rewritten. A moment later, a broad smile appeared on Jonas' face. "Honey, your mom is waiting. Your costume is backstage, go get dressed. She wants to see you dance." Jonas leaped out of his seat and ran eagerly into the next room. He instinctively knew where to go and what to do. The doctor watched Jonas for a few moments. Jonas saw his costume. He knew he had to start with the tights. It was new, still in the original plastic. Jonas took off his gown and stood naked. He picked up the package containing the tights, he unstuck the tape that was keeping the package close, without tearing the tape. He took out the nude footless tights. They were wrapped around a piece of thin cardboard. He used his fingers to slide his way down the tights. Then he sat down, lifted his left leg and put his foot through the hole. He snaked the left side up his legs as if he had done this very action thousands of times before. The doctor left his office and escorted Katie to the theater part of the building. They took a seat in the theater in front of the empty stage. The doctor knew it would take Jonas some time to get ready. "Are you sure this is what you want? We could have used the shy girl persona or the cheerleader or maybe the underage vixen." The doctor smiled at the thought of the boy he just saw, strutting around in skin-tight capri faux leather leggings and a top made of stretchy material tied into a severe knot at the upper torso, exposing his navel as he gyrated on 6-inch stilettos. "No, this will be perfect. I can't wait to see it." The music swelled with a cello playing classical music. Katie didn't know the name of the music, but it was The Dying Swan by Saint Saëns. Jonas beautifully leaped out from stage left with a graceful gesture that he never had shown before. He was wearing a black and white print leotard with an open back and no sleeves over footless nude tights. Over the tights and leotard was a white tutu which encircled him by about a foot. He wore point shoes with ribbons that tied around his ankles and ending in a pretty bow. Jonas danced and twirled on his toes to the music with a big smile on his face. His lips were painted red so they could be seen from the back rows of the empty theater. Similarly, his cheeks were also made up in a theatrical fashion. His eyes were contrasted from his cheeks in a blue hue. His makeup was well done even though it didn't fit his boyish face. Jonas moved effortlessly from one move to the next in as fluid a manner as he could. I thought you said he would know. He knows all the moves. In his head he is an aspiring ballerina who has been dancing since she was 3. But just because he knows the moves, his body isn't as how should I say it balanced as he thinks. Well, he certainly is trying hard. Are you sure this is what you want? I am. I can't wait to see James' face when Jonas comes on and kisses him on the cheek like a daughter would. How long will he stay like this? This is his personality now. He'll grow and change like anyone else, but right now he thinks like a 16-year-old girl who loves dance more than anything and wants to be a ballerina. He thinks that ballet is and always has been his life. Of course, if you change your mind I can put any persona into his head. Like the ones we discussed before. We can even make him insist that he prefers to be called Joan instead of Jonas. I could have him call himself Shelby if you like. No, everything is perfect just as it is. James doesn't see his son much. Let him think this is who Jonas really has always been. Jonas finished his performance ending it with a pirouette and a huge smile on his face. Katie and the doctor clapped enthusiastically. Jonas courtesied several times, his hands pulling the hem of his tutu as he bowed gracefully and put one foot behind the other. He was proud of his performance. Jonas dashed off the stage and then into the audience to greet his mother and the doctor. His broad and pretty smile never left his face the entire trip. Katie rose to her feet to receive her son. Jonas kissed her tenderly on the cheek in a way he had never done before and then the two hugged. Mommy, did you see me? Jonas said animatedly using his hands in an expressive way he wouldn't have so just an hour before. You were just great, sweetheart. That was so beautiful. I could never be prouder of you, Katie told her son. Jonas blushed in response. Go get dressed so you can go home, the doctor suggested to Jonas. Your mother and I have some things to talk about. Jonas scampered away nimbly. You should encourage him as often as possible. That'll help. It's not absolutely necessary, but especially before he sees his father, the doctor told Katie. A while later, Jonas met up with them in the doctor's office. Jonas was wearing the same clothes he had been wearing when he entered the building. He was wearing the same t-shirt and jeans. He was even wearing the same sneakers, but underneath it all, instead of his underwear, he was wearing girls' panties and a bra. The bra was little more than a training bra, although it was listed as a AA cup and had padding to give the illusion of slight breasts. He was also wearing no-show socks with his sneakers instead of the athletic socks he had on before. Most of the makeup was gone. It had been cleansed off his face, but he had reapplied a light foundation to give his face a smoother appearance and pale pink lipstick. Something that could easily be mistaken for cherry-flavored chapstick. I wish my hair was as pretty as yours, Jonas told Katie. You have very pretty hair. Not as nice as yours. Although you should style it a bit differently. I like it the way it is. It could be better, let me show you. Katie remembered what the doctor said about encouraging Jonas. She also saw the doctor nod for reassurance. Katie acquiesced to Jonas fixing her hair. Jonas stood behind her with a brush in one hand. Katie never knew what was happening, as Jonas took a device similar to the one that had been attached to his head when the doctor swapped his personality with the one he has now. The doctor took over for Jonas to fully activate the device. Katie's mind went blank as her personality was being rewritten. James, Katie's ex-husband, appeared by the doctor's side. "This will take a little time, Mr. Nepudi," the doctor informed James. "Let's wait in the other room. Katie will be out when it's done." The doctor, James, and Jonas walked into the next room. Jonas walking with the grace of a dancer and the posture of a pretty girl. "Honey, can you get me a cup of coffee?" James said. He wanted to talk to the doctor privately. Jonas pranced over to the coffee pot in the corner of the room to get the requested drink. In confidential tones, James told the doctor, "When Katie is done, you will return my son back to normal?" "I can't right now. His mind has just been through the treatment. It needs a few weeks or maybe a month to resettle. Then I can replace his personality again." "He has to stay like this for a whole month?" "It won't be too bad. Don't worry, everything will be fine. I'll tell you what. You bring him here in 2 weeks and I'll check his progress. If it's good, we can do it then instead of waiting the month. Bring Katie back too so I can check them both out." Their conversation was cut short as Jonas returned with the coffee and sat by his father. He held him close as if he was a daddy's girl. It wasn't too long before Katie entered the room. She looked in a way completely different. She wasn't wearing the casual blouse and capri-length slacks she had before. She was dressed as a professional maid in a uniform. She wore a black-collared button-down dress with white accents. The sleeves were elbow-length and the A-line skirt ended at her knees. The dress was sturdily made out of polyester. She had a white apron tied around her waist that had 2 large pockets. She wore dark hose and her feet were encased in shoes with a thick rubbery sole that was designed to be comfortable after many hours of being on one's feet. Her makeup was modest and understated, although she used a foundation which gave her Caucasian face an olive tint common in Hispanics. Her hair was tied into a severe bun. "Senor Nepudi, are we ready to return home now?" Katie said in perfect English, although it had a hint of a Mexican accent. "In a few minutes, Katie. Take Jonas with you. I want to talk to the doctor alone." The two left the room and waited. "It's better than I could have ever believed. Just wait until she gets home and can do her face properly and dyes her hair black." I was about to ask about that accent. She thinks she has a Mexican heritage. She speaks Spanish fluently. I didn't know she spoke Spanish. She didn't. She's a hard worker and loves her job as a maid, housekeeper, and cook. She even gives the best back rubs and she doesn't mind doing them. It's amazing. Just amazing. She thinks she has always been a housekeeper and that you just hired her. She is grateful for the work and is very well skilled in how to keep a house well maintained. She wanted a maid when we were married. But I couldn't afford one then. It's kind of ironic. Irony is what I do. But remember, she is your maid now, not your wife. You must treat her as such, and only as such. Don't you know? Sex would bring her out of it? No, but she wouldn't like it. I have a new young wife. I don't think there will be any problem. I'll have Jonas and Katie's personal items be sent to your home. I can pick them up from their apartment. I meant new stuff more suited to their personalities. You know, like extra uniforms. I see. Once at home, James showed Jonas and Katie to their rooms. James was a little disturbed at how affectionate Jonas was. How Jonas kept calling him daddy and the way Jonas moved. But seeing that bitch Katie being put into her place made the whole thing worth it. Jonas stayed in his room and watched television. Not that the shows he watched now were anything like those he used to watch. Katie got right to work. She started cleaning the house immediately. She was well trained and she wanted to make a good first impression. She didn't only want to keep the house clean, but she wanted to do it in such a way as to be as little an inconvenience as possible. Clean rooms that weren't being used, vacuum when the noise wouldn't be a problem, stuff like that. James, and in particular Alexis, James' new wife, loved to give Katie instructions. Katie did all her tasks quickly and professionally. James especially liked Katie's back rubs. One day, James remembered what the doctor said about those and he decided to try them out. "Katie, can I see you?" "Si, Signor Neputi," Katie said in her accented voice. "Could you do me a favor?" "Si. I've had a great deal of stress. Can you rub my shoulders?" "No problem, Mr. Neputi." As with everything else Katie did, she was expert and professional. She had magic hands and the message felt great. There wasn't anything sexual in the way it was done. It was like a warm pulsating shower after a very hard day at work. It wasn't long before the household fell into a routine. Katie was just happy to be doing a good job. After a while, the fun of ordering Katie around just for the fun of it lapsed. James and Alexis simply enjoyed having a maid who would do anything that needed to be done, mostly without ever being asked. Jonas loved dancing and would practice when he could. There was even a large room in James' house with wooden floors that was perfect for his ballet practice. Jonas never wondered why he wasn't returning to school. James had explained that his records were being transferred from his old school and that would take time. James didn't want anyone to get to know Jonas until his personality was returned to normal. Or at least until he had a masculine personality. After 2 weeks, James took Jonas and Katie to the doctor. James was dressed in Dockers and a polo shirt. Katie was dressed in one of her many uniforms. This time it was a double-breasted dress which had 2 lines of buttons up and down the bodice. She wore it with her usual pocketed apron and dark hose. Jonas was wearing a long-skirted top with skin-tight pants that came down to his mid-calf. The outline of his bra could clearly be seen and his sneakers were a light fuchsia. Katie was the first to see the doctor. Jonas was using one of the chairs as a ballet bar to stretch out his muscles. James was stressed a bit. He hoped that the doctor could return his son to his normal masculine personality today. He didn't like seeing his son so feminine in attitude and action. When Katie left the doctor's office, she saw the worry on James' face and said, "Senor, would you like me to give you a rub?" This seemed like a great idea to James. Katie got behind him and removed the device from her apron pocket. She touched it to the back of James' head. His mind went blank as his personality left his brain. The doctor left his office with Alexis and then activated the device properly. When the Neputi family returned home, James was very different than he was before. He was sitting in a wheelchair being pushed by Alexis. He was still the head of the household and married to Alexis, but in his mind he was a sick man in his late 80s. He wore eyeglasses that weakened his vision and hearing aids which amplified the sounds but also garbled them somewhat. The world around him confused him. James was dressed in a red plaid long-sleeve shirt. He wore polyester brown slacks with black socks and black shoes. On his lap was a folded blanket which he always had to have around since he felt cold regardless of the temperature. He wore a white undershirt under his regular shirt and a thick adult-sized diaper under his pants. Alexis had made an appointment for James to have his teeth removed and dentures be put in their place. The doctor had suggested a dentist who could do the procedure without any questions asked. James could walk slowly with a walker, but the wheelchair was easier on everyone else. Alexis did this to her husband to get a hold of his money. Although this wasn't her only option. She thought about giving James the same personality as Jonas had. They would spend their time like sisters, practicing dance in the formal dining room. But it would be best, James was controlled and the old sick man persona would do the trick. Once they got home, it was quickly apparent that she would have to get a home healthcare worker to see to his needs. A temporary aide arrived that night and helped with James until a permanent aide could be hired. Jonas, who adored his daddy, was also a big help, especially that first day. With her family taken care of, Alexis was free to go and do whatever she wanted. She made herself over from head to toe with apparel and jewelry. She bought a new car, everything was good except for Jonas. Jonas started to complain that he wanted to go to this special dance academy. "But I want to go?" Jonas would whine. "Things are tough right now. I can't send you this year. Maybe next?" Alexis was waiting for Jonas to be over 18 and then she could throw his sissy butt out of her house. "Daddy says I can go," Jonas would point out. "Your father doesn't know what he is saying half the time." Alexis was sick of this. She wanted Jonas dealt with. She remembered that the doctor said that they could bring Jonas back in a month and his personality could be restored. That sounded good. But maybe not restored, maybe Jonas could be James' permanent home healthcare aide? That would be perfect for everyone. Maybe he could be given the personality of the girl they had now. She was great, but she just couldn't take the job permanently. She was getting married in a few weeks. Alexis planned on the doctor's visit to be the day that the regular aide was off so that Jonas could help. Alexis never wore an outfit that didn't cost at least $200. Usually much more than that. Between the tops, bottoms and shoes, not to mention her expensive lingerie, she was always expensively dressed. Even if she was just going to the donut place to get a coffee, she wouldn't allow herself to see herself in inexpensive clothes, no matter how fashionable or practical they were. Her jewelry, makeup and accessories also had to be expensive. Today she was wearing a Caroline Rose button-front crinkled gingham shirt with ruched collar with Eileen Fisher organic skinny ankle jeans and rag and bone boho moto zip booties in white. Together she paid almost $500 for the outfit. She would have been disappointed to know that she could have bought the complete outfit at the reduced price of $167. She would never wear the outfit again if she found out that they had been reduced it so much. "Jonas, I'm taking Daddy to the doctor today." "I need your help," Alexis called. "No problem. I'll be right there." Jonas had been practicing his dancing and was dressed in a leotard and tights with his ballet slippers. He took off his slippers, put a skirt over the bottom of his leotard, put on some flats and was ready to go in a few minutes. Of course, it took an extra 10 minutes to fix his makeup. Alexis told Katie, who was dressed in her usual uniform, "We are going to the doctor. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. I'll expect lunch to be on the table when we get home." "Si, Sonora," was the response. Jonas helped James into the car and they drove to the doctor. They wheeled James into the office in his chair. It might be a nice spring day, but James was still wearing his heavy shirt with long sleeves and in slacks with dark socks and light gray slippers. The slippers looked out of place on his feet with black socks, but he wasn't going to be doing any walking and the slippers were easy to put on. Jonas was pushing James with Alexis in front. "Hey, Daddy's slipper fell off," Jonas announced. When Jonas backed up, Alexis saw the slipper on the floor. She bent down to get it, when from under the blanket in James' lap, he pulled out the same device that Jonas, Katie and James had all fallen victim to. He placed it on the back of Alexis' head and her mind went blank as her personality was removed. When Alexis returned to the waiting room, she was dressed differently. She was wearing a navy blue t-shirt with the picture of a T-Rex on it, ripped jeans and no shoes at all. Jonas, James and Alexis had to wait to go home. None of them could drive the car they arrived in. Jonas called an Uber who said it would be there in 15 or 20 minutes. Alexis was filled with nervous energy and kept moving around the waiting room. "I have a surprise for you," the doctor said to Alexis. This froze Alexis in her tracks. Then he pulled a toy truck out from behind his back and presented it to Alexis. Alexis grabbed the toy, fell back to her knees and pushed the truck around the room. "What do you say?" Jonas asked Alexis. Alexis looked over her shoulder at the doctor and said thank you, and as quickly turned away to continue playing with her new truck. It was almost 1 o'clock when the trio returned home. As soon as the Uber stopped, Alexis scrambled out of the car. She had her new toy truck in her hand. As she wasn't wearing a bra anymore, her breasts bobbed and her nipples poked through her shirt, but she didn't care. Her jeans were cheap and had holes in them. She was forced to wear white socks and ratty white sneakers. Under her clothes she wore boys' briefs. All of the expensive jewelry and makeup were gone. She didn't care about any of those things, especially the jewelry and makeup. She didn't have a smile on her face. She had a grin as she was happy to be home and play with her toys. "Alex," Jonas called out from the car. "Help me with Daddy." Alexis turned on a dime and ran back to the car. She enjoyed being helpful, especially for her stepson Jonas, who she idolized. She thought of him more as a cool big brother, instead of her son. She now had the personality of a rambunctious 10-year-old boy. She could have as much fun with the box a toy comes with than the actual toy. But that didn't mean she didn't want to toy too. She has no conception of money or what things cost, and she didn't care. She liked the t-shirt she was wearing, but she could take it off, leaving her breasts exposed, because she was hot, and leave it anywhere and not care one iota. Alexis helped Jonas get Daddy out of the car and get into the wheelchair. She ran to the front door and opened it. Once Daddy was inside, she ran to the backyard and started to play a pretend game. She was a soldier in an intergalactic war. She was wearing a special uniform that had cannons on her chest. She squeezed each boob to make it fire and made pew-pew sounds as she did so. At 1 o'clock, Jonas called out to her. "Alex, it's lunch time. I wanna play. You can play later. Lunch now." Alexis hung her head down as she trudged back to the house. Lunch was ready and everyone had their own meal. Katie had fixed the meal and wasn't allowed to eat at the table with the others. James fed him the mush. It was actually chicken that Katie had prepared for him. It was well pureed so James couldn't gag. Jonas was eating a salad. He had to stay trim. He was going to start at the dance academy in a few days. Jonas would tell Alexis to sign the papers now or she wouldn't be allowed to go outside and play. Alexis ate a hot dog with potato chips and a sugary soda. Katie wished that Jonas, who was the only one who could help her, would help her with her citizenship. He promised, but when she brought it up, all he kept talking about was the dance school he was planning on attending. Maybe if he didn't care about dance so much, she thought. Maybe if he was more of a quiet, studious boy, then he would help me? A doctor had called her. She had seen him a while back, but she didn't remember when it was. He said that he could help her. After lunch, when she gets a moment, she'll call him back.